Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Leviticus, the 13th chapter. And this is dealing with the plague of leprosy in the body, right, in the skin, or in the hair, or even in the garment, and basically what would be the protocol concerning that. So this is Leviticus chapter 13, verse 1. And the Lord Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising, a scab, or bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy. Now, when you go into this word leprosy here, and a few of these, let's start with leprosy and then backtrack a bit. It says here, Taza Rath, Ra'ith. It says leprosy in people, malignant skin disease, in clothing, mildew or mold, in buildings, a mildew or mold. So if we look up here, leprosy disease, because usually what we think about is, sometimes people hear leprosy, you think of like this, right? These spots here, okay, these light colored spots, which this right here, it's like a small rising, right? Or you might think of a discoloration, right? More so like vitiligo, right? Or even something like this. So as we read in the chapter, you'll see there'll be mentions of like a white spot, right? And then you can imagine something like this in the skin, okay? And this is what it would look like. And then sometimes it might be a rising, right? Or a scab or a boil or a rash. So it really comes down to being a skin disease. As here it says here, leprosy or Hansen's disease is a chronic bacterial infection affecting the skin, nerves, eyes, and respiratory tract, causing skin lesions. So I guess, there's the extension, right? More than just skin, but most of the time you see it on the outer part of the body. Obviously not just exclusive to the skin. So it's causing skin lesions, nerve damage, and potential disability if untreated. So I'm going to leave the images up a bit and then go in case we reference it. So you have here the leprosy, but it mentions if a man has in his flesh, so on his body, a rising, a scab, or a bright spot, which would look like that, either like something like this or the other one that came up with the hand, this one, right? It's like a bright spot. And sometimes when you get an injury and then the scab grows on it and you peel the scab, it'll still look white, right? Kind of like that. Cool. So this is the word for, I believe, what is this? Rising. Sha'ath, right? A swelling. Okay. And when we looked at like some of this, these are like rash or swelling, right? Small ones here, bumps. The other one, which is a scab, is here an eruption, a scab, lesion, all right, either malignant or benign. And then the bright spot, it says here a white patch of skin, brightness, bright spot on skin. And you can see an example like this. So basically listing some of these symptoms here. And it says if you see somebody with these symptoms, and it looks, right, like the plague of leprosy, like a skin disease, then he shall be brought on to Aaron the priest and onto one of his sons, the priest. And the priest shall look on the plague. So they're going to examine it in the skin of the flesh. And when the hair in the plague is turned white. So these are the things they would look for. So if that area where it's affected, if the hair, because usually your hair on your body is black, but if that area, the hair there is turned white, and the plague in sight be deeper than the skin of his flesh. So when they examine it, they look at it, it looks like this isn't just like a surface area plague, but it's deeper, right? It goes deep down into, this is more than just a topical, you know, light thing. And if that's the case, it is a plague of leprosy, and the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. If the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and in sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof be not turned white. So it doesn't look like this is coming from beneath, the surface level of your skin, plus the hair in that area hasn't turned white, and the hair thereof be not turned white, then the priest shall shut up him that hath the plague 7 days. So basically they're going to be quarantined for a week. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, so it hasn't spread, and the plague spread not in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. So he would examine. If everything looks like the way it was, it hasn't spread or gotten worse, they would quarantine him for another 7 days, him or her. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, so it's like sort of like faded, it's not as white, and it hasn't spread anywhere else on the body, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. So this isn't leprosy, it's just, as it says, a scab. And as we looked into the word scab over here, it said here an eruption or a scab or a scar. Okay. But if the scab spread much abroad in the skin, after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing. So if afterwards this this scab or this scar starts to actually spread in different parts of the body, then he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab spreadeth in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy, because it's spreading. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest. And the priest shall see him, examine him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, or have turned the hair white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising. So you have like see if I could find, all right, something like this, right? And these look like huge rashes, right? Because you can see that there's a bit of swelling there, and it's discolored, right? So as it says, if it be white in the skin, and the hair, right, in that area has turned white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising. When you go into this, it's basically like let me pull this up in the NLT, an open sore, right? So if you see these symptoms here, the priest looks at it and sees it, like, when your skin gets cut and then under it is exposed, that sort of uncovered or opened area is likened to the raw flesh. And so if that's the case, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, meaning this is like chronic. And the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. Because the shutting up is like to further examine or confirm based on what happens after that 7-day duration. But here you can already confirm that they're unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his toe. So now he's completely covered the leprosy. So the discoloration like this, but imagine this has completely spread like an albino, you could say, right? Let's look them up. Yeah. So imagine maybe like this, where it has completely covered their skin, from head to toe, right, even to the foot, wheresoever the priest looketh. So they examine, they see, okay, it's fully covered them. Then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague. It is all turned white, he is clean. So as long as it's not like this kind of discoloration, and this spreads and covers the entire body, and you look like this, then you would be pronounced clean in terms of being a clean leper. But when raw flesh appeareth in him, he shall be unclean. So if any open sores or skin starts to show up, then you're going to be pronounced unclean. And the priest shall see the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean, it is a leprosy. Or if the raw flesh turn again and be changed into white, so if it heals and it just goes back and returns to being that white color as before, he shall come unto the priest, and the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague, he is clean. The flesh also, in which even the skin thereof was a boil, and is healed. So you had, I don't know, some pimple, some boil, something like that, and it is popped and is healed. And in the place of the boil, they be a white rising, or a bright spot, white and somewhat reddish. And it beshewed the priest. So afterwards, it gets healed, but at that same area, you develop this white spot, or this white swelling, or this reddish and white, rash or whatnot in that area. Then they're going to show it to the priest. And if, when the priest seeth it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil. So basically, it was like a skin disease that developed after that boil was, gone or healed. Maybe it ended up damaging the follicles or exposed bacteria or something like that. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. So the person will be quarantined 7 days. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. So even though it looked a little darker, and the hair didn't turn white, it started to spread. So okay, this is a plague. This isn't a scar. This isn't just, this is a plague. This is leprosy. But if the bright spot stay in his place and spread not, it is a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. And that burning boil meaning it's like a scar, right? In the NKJV it says here, but if the bright spot stays in one place and has not spread, it is the scar of the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Verse 24, or if there be any flesh in the skin, whereof there is a hot burning, so you got burned somewhere, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white bright spot. So the part that got burned, right, the raw flesh that got burned, has this white, it starts to look like a bright white spot in there, somewhat reddish or white. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot be turned white, and it be in sight deeper than the skin, it is a leprosy broken out of the burning. So leprosy that developed after the burning of that skin. Wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, but somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And the priest shall look upon him the 7th day, and if it be spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in his place, so it doesn't spread, and spread not in the skin, but it be somewhat dark, so it doesn't look as bright anymore, It is a rising of the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is an inflammation of the burning. So this is basically a result of the burn, not a disease or leprosy that came of it, but just like a scar or, discoloration or something like that developed as a result of being burned in that area. As I mentioned, an inflammation of burning. If a man or woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, so now dealing with finishing up the situations of like skin diseases, and now dealing with the plague of leprosy of the hair, right? So upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow thin hair, that's what you call that blonde hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scale, even a leprosy upon the head or beard. And let's look into this word scowl over here, which is basically like the head or hair version equivalent of that plague. It says here scab, skin eruption, scowl of leprosy, scurf, dry scowl. Let's see what else is here. A scowl, scab in the head or beard, one suffering from a scowl. Let's look that up here. Scowl, leprosy. There they all just go back to scalp. Okay, let's see here. A form of leprosy, scowl. The scowl refers to a specific type of skin disease mentioned in the Old Testament, particularly in the book of Leviticus. It is considered a form of leprosy, which in biblical times encompassed a variety of skin conditions, not limited to what is known today as Hansen's disease. The term scowl is used to describe a condition affecting the scalp or beard, characterized by a patchy, scaly appearance. Yeah, okay. So there's a little bit about scowl. Let's see what else this says. Yeah, it's just a type of skin disease or condition of the hair or the head, the scalp, or the beard. Cool. So let's go back. So as it says here, right, if you have that skin disease on your scalp, right, or on your beard, and then the priest examines and he sees the yellow thin hair, it's going to be pronounced unclean. That is leprosy of the head or the beard. And if the priest look on the plague of the scowl, and behold, it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up that hath the plague of the scowl 7 days. And let's read this in the NLT. It says, if the priest examines the scabby sore and finds that it is only skin deep, but there is no black hair on it, he must quarantine the person for 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the scowl spread not, so that disease on the head doesn't spread, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the scowl be not in sight deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven, but the scowl shall he not shave. So the part of the head or hair that's affected will not be shaved, but the other part will. And the priest shall shut him up that hath the scowl 7 days more. So an additional 7 days. And in the 7th day the priest shall look on the scowl, and behold, if the scowl be not spread in the skin, because now you can see it because you've shaved the hair from around it, nor be in sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scowl spread much in the skin after his cleansing, so if you're pronounced clean, but then later on this disease of the head or the beard starts to spread, more in a different, different parts. Maybe it was just at the center of your head. Now it spreads to the back and the sides. And then this is after you've been cleansed. Then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scale be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair. He is unclean. So the second he can tell by looking there, right? In whatever visible sign you would see, whether it's discoloration or, just a certain texture or just a certain different appearance of it. If you see that spread to other parts of the head or the beard, then you know that you don't even need to look for that yellow hair. This is leprosy. They're unclean. But if the scale be in his sight at a stay, so that diseased part, or what would have appeared to be a diseased part, does not spread, and that there is black hair grown up therein, the scale is healed. He is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. So it wasn't any like yellow hair that grew in. It was just your regular, normal black hair. Then the person would be healed and clean. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin, he is clean. In NLT it says the priest must examine the affected area. If he finds that the skinny patches are only pale white, this is a harmless skin rash, and the person is ceremonially clean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. So you start losing your hair, you go bald, you're fine, you're still clean. And he that hath his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, he is forehead bald. So that's that front and center part, that's like you're losing hair over there, right? Your forehead bald. Yet is he clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung out of his bald head or his bald forehead. So then this sore would be that would be an indicator there that, okay, this isn't just your typical baldness, but there's something more here, in particular leprosy. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head, or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh. So if just like how leprosy appears in the skin of your flesh, if you see this white and reddish sore on their head, whether it's around any part of their head or their forehead, the part that's bald, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. His plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean. Meaning, whoever this leper is, and this doesn't mean they're just going to go around crying unclean, but basically if somebody was to approach them, right, or get close, because leprosy is contagious, they would then indicate to them that they're unclean, all right, meaning they have that leprosy. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean, right? So because there are sometimes when it gets healed, he shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall be his habitation. So he's going to dwell separately apart from the camp. And once we got into the land, there were actual cities and areas that were designated where the lepers would dwell, so that it wouldn't spread to the rest of the congregation. And that deals with the leprosy of the head, right, the hair. And now we got leprosy of a garment. So it says the garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be a woolen garment, so a garment made of wool, or a linen garment, a garment made of linen, whether it be in the warp or woof. Now, when you go into that, it's just basically like how it's made, right? When you go into warp, shathia, it says here warp or woven material, right? So something that is like you weave it together, or the woof, which goes into what's the Rob, which is it says as mixed or interwoven, right? Knitted, something knitted in there. So basically, you know, if this garment is woven or knitted together and is made of linen or of wool, whether in a skin or in anything made of skin, and the skin here is talking about animal skin, right, or the animal's hide. And if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment, right, that mildew or that mold, or in the skin, once again, it's dealing with the material made of the animal skin, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin, it is a plague of leprosy and shall be shewed unto the priest. So you would take that garment to the priest, and they would examine it. And the priest shall look upon the plague and shut up it that hath the plague 7 days. So that garment or that article of clothing would be put aside, put somewhere separately for 7 days. And he shall look on the plague on the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in a skin or in any work that is made of skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy. It is unclean. So it's live leprosy. It's active. Okay, as you see here, it's an active leprosy. So it's unclean because it is spreading. He shall therefore burn that garment, whether warp or woof, in linen or in woolen or in linen or anything of skin, wherein the plague is, for it is a fretting leprosy. It shall be burnt in the fire. And if the priest shall look, and behold, the plague be not spread in the garment. So if after those 7 days, this plague does not spread to other parts of the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. So they're going to wash that garment or the article of clothing, or whatever it is that was made of that material, and then they're going to put it aside for 7 days again. And the priest shall look on the plague after that it is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed his color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire. It is fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. So even though, let's read that here. It says, then the priest must examine the object again if he finds that the contaminated area has not changed color after being washed, even if it did not spread. So even if that mold or whatever didn't spread to other parts, but that discolored area after being washed stayed that same color, then it's defiled, right? It must be completely burned, whether the contaminated spot is on the inside or outside. And if the priest look, and behold, the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, then he shall rend it out of the garment. So they're going to tear out that part where that plague was, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appears still in the garment, so after it's been torn out, if it shows up again, that plague, in another part of the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is a spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein the plague is with fire. And the garment, either warp, or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the second time, and shall be clean. So if after you washed it the first time and put it away 7 days, the plague is no more, it's gone, it's clean, then you're going to wash the garment again, and then it's going to be clean, and you can, the garment, and you can use it. This is the law of the plague of leprosy in a garment of woolen or linen, either in the warp or woof, or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean or to pronounce it unclean. And that brings us to the end of the book of Leviticus, the 13th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.